The topic of this panel is Future of Finance. Whoa, that's broad. We have a very diverse panel. We know already about Albert. I'm going to ask everyone else to please introduce yourselves, tell us about your work, and give us one topic that you think it's absolutely essential for us to touch on during this panel discussion. And Aadil, it's your job to make sure that they do.
Thank you, David. You've seen me several times on stage over the last 3 days. Aadil Bundeally, I'm a London-based consultant advisor, work with big banks and insurance companies on digital transformation, and love philanthropy, love altruism, and also enjoy advising FinTech startups and scale-ups. I am keen on learning more about the intersection of, obviously, AI, blockchain, but also quantum computing. It was only mentioned a couple of times, and that's the next revolution. So keen if we can cover quantum as well. Thanks.
We're skipping Albert. Allard, please.
Hi, Allard Luchsinger. I'm a FinTech investor. I invest in early stage FinTech companies. I got there through being an entrepreneur. I founded a few companies, and the last one I founded was a FinTech company out of Silicon Valley. It was basically the Robinhood model, zero commission trading. We failed because we didn't become Robinhood. We just launched before iPhone, but in the end, we did sell it for a good amount. I became a VC, spent 10 years investing late seed, Series A, mainly in Europe and in Africa. And then after quite a long sabbatical, I got drawn back in to now run an accelerator program. We invest in 10 super early stage FinTech companies in Amsterdam, and they come in for every year. It's 10 that come into Amsterdam, and we work with them for 3 months to accelerate their growth. They're all European, and we have a partner in ABN AMRO Bank. And so the future of finance is actually what I invest in, because every year we take 10 companies that are banking on and trying to build a business in what they see is going to be the future. And then we have to take a position on that. So I can tell you that there's one thing we cannot not talk about, and we will, of course, and it's a bit of an open door, but it is AI. Last year, I had out of my 10 companies, I had one company that was purely based on Gen AI. I now have 9 out of 10 who couldn't exist without LLMs. That's basically the core of what they do. So for me, that is and I've never seen anything like it. When blockchain came, of course, lots of companies were like crypto blockchain companies, but never like this. And most of them actually have ideas that could work very well, it seems, and getting quite some traction. So AI, I would say.
Thank you. Ruta?
Good evening. My name is Ruta Merkeviciute. I'm head of digital finance unit at European Banking Authority. So our work is really to facilitate, to contribute to the financial regulation, that it would be implemented by supervisors in a proper manner. And also we are getting new functions as an authority in, for example, supervising significant e-money and asset reference token issuers, so-called stablecoin issuers. So this is also the topic that we are working on. What I would say about the future, of course, I would agree with you that all these 3 topics, AI, quantum, DLT, crypto. But in addition, I would say, for me, innovation is also how the business models evolves. And one of the things I always look into the customer experience is embedded finance. What does it mean is that finance is seemingly combining the usual services that customers has. And then, in a way, in addition to that, all the big techs and their impact to that. And then the last point, AI, data, it's then personalization of the services. It's still, for me, the question why we are still so focused on personalized advertisement instead of focusing on personalized finance. That could be an added value.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruta. Sheila.
That's very interesting. Sheila Mitham, CEO and founder of a digital consultancy in London called Inbound FinTech. We work with startups, scale-ups, VCs, PEs, enterprise clients on go-to-market plans and digital transformation, change management, and so on. AI was, I covered it earlier in one of my talks in RevOps, but I think I'm really interested when I think finance, I think money. Programmatic payments, I think, is a really big upcoming phase that we will all explore, and also personal finance and personal wealth management. So, and you touched on this about, personalization at scale in marketing, but the future of us taking over our own personal finance and having our own AI-driven personal wealth management assistant, I think that's going to be the future.
Thank you all. Aadil, whenever you want to ask a question, I'm going to defer to you if I see that you have a question. And also, you're a master at tying together different strands that emerge.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I'm jotting notes because I've learned so much in the last 3 days. And this TLA, the three-letter acronym that Jason Lee spoke about, the Trusted Execution Environment. So I wanted to think about, given the time of the evening, a nightclub analogy. So that if the trusted execution environment chips create secure enclaves for sensitive operations, basically it's like giving your processor a VIP section in the nightclub where important code can hide from malware. You know who that might be in a nightclub, which is like having a bouncer for your CPU who checks IDs at the club door whilst the building is literally on fire and everyone's climbing through the windows anyway. I don't know if a lot of people got that, but I was just trying to signify the security faux pas in a trusted execution environment. Thank you.
I want to add a comment that, so innovation also influenced our thinking at this event, and we tried to innovate in multiple ways. Some of them fell flat, some of them did not, but one of them is that we fought very hard with our app provider for them to provide not only the upvote, but also the downvote buttons, which you can use for the questions, so they get sorted in the order of preference. So feel free to not only ask questions, but also upvote, downvote them. And you can see on your app how many upvotes and downvotes there are. Here we can see them, but we can just see the order. But I do see that there is a question from Michael Wolfson, which is there any particular nexus between AI and crypto that we should worry about in particular? Anyone wants to take this?
I can have a stab. So there's a company that I'm working with called AI Risk. It's a UK-based company. What they're doing is trying to create level 3, level 4 agentic AI, and they're creating digital twins of humans and some subject matter expertise in insurance underwriting, where actuaries have their own way of assigning and delegating risks. They're creating digital twins of their personalities, giving them names. And I've actually seen the digital twin having its own blockchain ID, and them argue, 2 or 3 of level 4 agents arguing with each other like humans would, without human intervention. So yes, that's the nexus I see. Level 4 agentic AI in a complex financial underwriting process.
Please. So there's a famous Andreessen spoke about this, saying that the fundamental mistake we made when we thought about the internet was actually not building payments into it, and we have been paying for that ever since, specifically by making like privacy data the currency of the internet, because there's actually no real way of doing like micropayments. So now crypto and DLT and all that kind of has the potential to solve it. And slowly we're getting to the point that stablecoins are getting real traction in being a platform for which it could work. Now, AI and is now, of course, all about agents, and agents can take decisions by themselves. And AIs can actually not get paid without crypto, because crypto is programmable money. And now you can have agents that can have a life of themselves, together with programmable money, which you can actually put rules into to how they can use it and when, without any humans having to be part of that. And this could be micropayments. So the idea is that like AI together with crypto, and for now it's stable coins, but it could be all kinds of other crypto kind of functionalities that come with that, can actually drive a whole new ecosystem that we can't even imagine what it's going to be. And I think this is one of the most interesting phases, of course, where we are now. People ask, what's the impact of AI going to be on everything, but also say on financial services. And like in 1995, we couldn't imagine Facebook, right? We couldn't imagine Google. We couldn't imagine like all the major things, and we couldn't even imagine Uber, right? So all these things that were the major, like now behemoth and winners of the internet age, we couldn't even imagine. So I think the same is going to be with financial services. But one thing I think is clear, that having DLT technology together with AI agents are going to drive a whole new set of maybe even industries that we haven't been able to imagine right now.
And actually, sort of related to that, the question that floated up to the very top is, how would you transfer your objective function to AI to take decisions? Ironically, or maybe not ironically, it's an anonymous question. Who wants to take this, if anyone? Or we can give it some time for us to reflect on this and come back to it later. It's a hard question, right? It's a very important one, right? And there's a lot of questions, but remember, upvote, downvote. So we'll see if something floats up to the top to dethrone that. We'll come back to it later, see if any thoughts on this appear. Ruta.
Yeah. I don't know if I really understand the question, but one thing that we are exploring, and we're working with a company to for your AI agent, to have a personal AI agent who can make decisions on you. So this is a payments company, and they're going to market in beta at the moment with, you have a number, all of us have 4 or 5 payment cards in our wallet, an e-wallet, Apple Wallet, and we use it depending on where we are. So we might use Revolut when we're away, or Monzo when we're at home, and tier 1 banks for your savings. What this personal AI agent does is take the thinking away from you, and based on your cash flow and the exchange rate, and includes stable coin and crypto, what to use where best for your specific function right there and then. And I think that's absolutely so powerful that, the decision's taken away from us and the AI takes over, but also risky, scary.
And I guess what the question is asking is, how do you imbue this AI with your values? And that's an essential question in this future world.
Well, I think also it's related to do there's sometimes when I walk through this conference, there's this. And maybe it's good to have, this unbounded optimism about everything that we create with AI and everything. But the AI has also an ability to deceive you for purposes that you might not be aware of. So do we really believe that everybody is going to use these things for all of these? I mean, if you give your whole financing away to some AI, how do we know that nobody's going to take advantage of that? I mean, it's the privacy issues are huge in these things.
Absolutely, they are. But like Allard said, who could imagine driverless cars, or using Uber to track, things that we thought were not possible or not on our radar are business as usual now. We all use them every day. To pay by your mobile phone. Who's brought their wallet with them today? You don't need to. So I think it's moving so fast. I think it's only a matter of time of if it's common adoption and everybody has an AI personal assistant.
I think these things, like a car and the things that you mentioned, are somewhat comprehensible to human. We're now talking about something that we don't understand anymore, and it understands us better than we understand it. And it will know what your buttons are, and it will try to persuade you by mentioning exactly these points. And so this is actually a challenge for all of these AIs to overcome this potential suspicion against using these AI bots.
I agree.
And in fact, in this very fast-changing and unpredictable world, I have a question for Ruta. So firstly, how does a regulator keep up with all this innovation that's taking place? And then what does one do about this attitude of, innovate first, ask for permission later, that, let's say PayPal, is famous for? What's your take on these things?
So truly, usually we have to be very concrete, or how to say blunt. Regulators are never going to be forward-looking in a way that will go with the industry or innovation. But what we could do, and one of the functions what I am doing is in my organization, we are looking to what the future might bring, what is happening in the market. And another point is also, what is the materiality of the innovation really happening. With the crypto, we already saw crypto in 2017 when it was 13. I recall everyone is saying that Bitcoin, why haven't you invested at that time? Then you knew. And at that time, we didn't put any regulation because it was a small thing. And for regulators, it's important to, at least in European mindset, it's important to notice when it is becoming mainstream. And usually with a Bitcoin, I understood that we are too late. Then my hairdresser began talking about investing in Bitcoin. So in a way, then the usual person starts talking about something that is so volatile, so unusual. It means regulator is already late. And of course, so this is a trade-off. So what we are looking now in a way that, materiality, all these topics, okay, quantum, but quantum, what does it mean, quantum? It's still progressing, but what implication it could be? And recently, Bank of International Settlements published a roadmap how to for banks to prepare for quantum. Then we are looking also on AI. And in AI, not in every field. And I agree that there is some specifics that people doesn't mind that AI take decision. For example, as me, sometimes I'm okay to follow, when you have kids, I'm okay to follow some good moms, what they are doing with the kids without doing my research. So, I'm looking also with AI like that. There is some kind of things that you as a human being, you really don't like wasting your time doing that thing, It could be the example of what you said, your AI solution is really what car to choose, who cares? Really, at the end of the day, I really could spend my time. So it's the trade-offs, it's very personal, of course, but also for regulators, it's also the trade-offs. Do I need to regulate something that is minuscule, that has no impact? What is the opportunity? Am I really losing the opportunity? And maybe the one example that I could say that, at least in Europe, regulators were advanced. It's open finance, open banking. Really, if nobody, but usually in Lithuania we are known about payments, but truly it was the regulation that introduced competitiveness, that smaller companies could join bank's account and look to your balance sheet and then use it for some kind of for insurance company for giving some products. So sometimes regulation really incentivizes innovation, but maybe it's not the usual view to regulation to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for a moment, I thought you were going to say the EU AI Act. I had to throw that in the mix. Because it's been quite topsy-turvy ever since the regulation came out. And I must admit the acceptance hasn't been very widespread. There are some dissenters. And speaking of innovation and fostering that, yes, a lot of people think that it might not lead to, or it might hamper innovation, slow it down a bit. It's the age-old saying that in the US, they innovate, in Europe, they regulate, and in Asia, they imitate. And I'm all for that level of imitation because it helps the developing economies leapfrog. And then us in Europe and the States can take a leaf out of their books.
I'll give questions on the role that academia can play how academics can help regulators to Ruta, and maybe how they can help to fintechs to Allard. But before, I just want to say that we designed this event to be flexible enough so that we can run over, so do not panic. We're not going to finish this panel in 2 minutes. We have a buffer that's designed for community announcements and closing remarks, but we don't have that much of them, so we're not super pressed for time. So, Ruta, is there a role for academics to, as we navigate this very unpredictable, uncertain world?
I think there is, and one of the topics that Albert presented on the crashes, what I am now interested, then we have a new function, for example, in supervising stablecoin significance. I would like to know what is the, what kind of patterns could show that the crashes is coming in this market, because it's so different, and we have there is a couple of crashes happened with stablecoin. It's not so much to look at that, and then as a supervisor, then you have this kind of, every supervisor, digital environment, that what you are, if you react, it's already too late. It's in a way, the way how it could be done differently, it could help. Another example, I was in a session about robo-advising, and it was interesting also to see how the paper of robo-advising, in a way, how the investments using robo-advising in comparison with just usual investment, how returns are different. And, in a way, there is no returns, but the question is, maybe the robo-advisor is used not in that way, that to help to the customers. So there is a lot of things that academia could do with the empirical knowledge, the empirical models for the new generation for supervisors and even regulators, because regulation is even more interesting, because currently it's more, for example, now usually there is still the basics that if you're a customer, you have this long sheets of contracts to read. Does it fit for a purpose now? Does it fit for usual customer? Is it a way to do it's different? And this is what interests, this behavioral science, in a way, how they understand what's being made. So there's just a couple of areas that I see like a benefit, and even us as from our digital finance, we try to talk with academia to understand what they are seeing in order for us to choose the priorities where to focus.
And thank you so much for this. Allard, just before I turn to you, I'd like to ask firstly, Albert, if you have a response to what Ruta just said, and I'll package that together with Antonio's question. What about liquidity dry-ups? Will AI agents solve or exacerbate them? So this is kind of related. In other words, are AI agents more or less prone to hurting than humans?
So at this point is always this point in the panel is always okay, you want more academic research on crashes? Why don't we talk about providing some data for this? This is an open call to all regulators, not to you specifically, but this is not impossible. You can make arrangements that academics like me or anybody in the room or participated work on a problem, and you can contract on on basically anonymity of anybody who's in the data. They need to be protected. We understand academics are not interested to see institution X does this particular action. We're interested in the behavior of the system, and I've had done work myself on CCPs where they provided that data, and it was very productive both ways. I thought about some new risks that I saw crowding on particular risk factors and how to compute them based on their data, and I reported that back to them, and they allowed me to write that academic paper, because ultimately that's the currency in which you need to pay us, not pecuniary currency, but allow us to publish what we found. So that's what I wanted to say.
And so on that, I'd love to ask for Allard's perspective. Firstly, self-serving question. So are there potential synergies that you see between fintechs and academics, but also then broadening it to, okay, as an accelerator, you're nurturing fintechs. Do accelerators themselves need reinventing as fintech is maturing and all these developments are taking place?
Yeah, and maybe also could I react to the regulator question? Because for fintechs, I think the most important thing is clarity, right? And you see what, in the US was a good example with crypto. Basically, the regulator just did nothing and this started enforcing. And there was really no regulation. And then we in Europe came up with MiCA. And MiCA is not perfect, but it really, everybody is super happy because it actually gives the framework to go. And then also there's but with AI, for example, we really want to be very early, but we really at risk to now stop all innovation. And we're not a player in the large language model game, which is for Europe is super dangerous. And we have a bank that we work with, and the bank wants to partner with us. We have 9 LLM companies coming, and I'm afraid that compliance at this moment is saying, we actually don't want to work with any AI companies because the AI Act is too unclear for us. So that is a very clear example. Now, and one other thing is, I think all of us are still clicking through the cookie thing. What is that all about? I mean, does anyone really know why that is? I think how many minutes, how many hours of lives are spent clicking through cookie stuff. And that's like, I think, so at some point also, I think regulators for all of us, not only for FinTech, should be able to clean up some totally unnecessary regulations and get rid of them. Because, but then on a side note, so...
Or maybe agentic AI could help.
Yeah, exactly. Like agentic AI could maybe solve that all. I think Allard will be a big fan of that. He's so on the regulators reinventing themselves. Accelerators. Well, we're actually working on this. So my program starts in 10 days, and we are like working with the core curriculum, as many of academics will do. And my core curriculum teaches people something that we've been teaching them for 15 years. Is basically lean startup stuff, meaning how do you build a startup? And all over the world, they're teaching the same stuff. And we can't teach this anymore. I need to start teaching it in 1.5 weeks. We can't do it because every single startup founder is using AI in incredible ways for every single step. Customer discovery, sales, marketing. We can't teach the stuff as if that didn't happen. That would make us look like total fools. So we've been really trying to cramp down on how to get some extra curriculum. And basically, what we're going to say is we're opening this up. We actually don't know. Probably you know better. But here are some things that we might use as a bit of a tree to talk about. So to your question, I think in 2 years' time, building a startup, whether it's a FinTech or anything else, will not look like anything we know now. Now we're looking at we do customer discovery. How can we use AI? I think in 2 years, there might be look totally different. You might have different words, you might do different things, but we don't know that yet. So at this moment, and yes, I think then accelerators will need total rethinking. But yeah, we're not there yet.
And Sheila, I'd love your perspective because you're kind of a FinTech doctor. FinTechs come to you with problems, you fix them, and you certainly have a strong opinion about cookies.
Indeed, I do. Indeed, I do. Big problem for us. Yeah, I mean, that's so interesting because I was thinking, Allard, how, will we need you in 10 years' time? Will FinTechs need you? Will they need to join your program? Or will there be all these different services that they can just tap into, like even prospecting? The amount of, I suppose everybody in the room has been called and you're talking to someone and the minute you pick up the phone and you say hello, and then this robot starts talking and then you're 10 seconds in and realize it's not a real person. But it's a volumes game, right? Like speed assist or speed dialing, and there's so many engines out there which are AI driven that can do it for you. But it's still back to your point and your point about the trust. Do people know what to do and in what order, and what is their tolerance to risk and testing? Because people like predictability and they like certainty and they like forecasting and they like revenue-driven incentives and initiatives. So I think it's very interesting times. Indeed, will they need a digital consultancy in 10 years' time? What does that human touch look like? So it's interesting. I don't have the answer, and I don't know the future, but all I do know is that we have to be one step ahead. I suppose like the regulators or accelerators, we have to know what that FinTech is doing, what they're applying, and offer them a best-in-class solution of what we know right now. So it's constant learning, constant improving in iterations.
Thank you, Sheila. Now we're starting to run out of time, so we have some questions still outstanding. Anyone wants to tackle them about DLTs, about quantum, about transferring your objective function to AI? I will also let Aadil bring all the threads together, ideally in the form of a Shakespearean sonnet. So so the questions at the top, I think we've addressed them. I don't know if you want to go back to non-standard areas because that's not that directly relevant to future of finance. So any final thoughts, and I'll let Aadil wrap up.
Yeah, could I have one final thought? And I was thinking about this, is that if you look at at fintechs and growing fintechs, what's the main challenges? So if you are a consumer-focused fintech, your main challenge is the cost of customer acquisition, right? So you can build the best system ever, but like acquiring customers is incredibly expensive because it's so competitive, and that's the problem to solve. If you look at B2B fintechs, building them, the biggest problem is long cycle times, right? You want to sell to banks, it takes 1.5 years to get all this closed. Now we've got AI, we've got DLT, we've got all that, but these two problems are still exactly the same. And I don't see them changing. I mean, I don't, everything will change the way you will sell, but it will still be expensive to sell to them, so you'll still need a solution for that. And it will still have long cycle times because these banks are still going to have the same structures probably, and before all that changes, that's going to be a long time. So some of the challenges will stick with us, and we'll still need to work with them on it.
And you're absolutely right. A long time is infinity. How many of you have heard of the infinite monkey theorem? It's quite an academic theoretical concept. I see a few nods. So for years, well, decades, it served as a fascinating thought experiment, the infinite monkey theorem. It suggests that an infinite number of monkeys in an infinite amount of time, by randomly pressing keys on a typewriter, could eventually produce the complete works of Shakespeare.
So you're just asking for more time for your sonnet summarizing this.
I'm ready with my sonnet, but here's the reference to Shakespeare. So obviously this theorem was thought about as a thought experiment about how replicating our usual rituals, habits, day-to-day tasks would eventually lead to something profound. And AI has all of this on steroids, right? So the best is yet to come. Now about the Shakespearean sonnet. So, European fintech lament. The EBA tests banks with forms galore, yet finds that 94% do fail. While DORA, the Digital Operational Resilience Act for banks and financial institutions, while DORA rules pile paperwork much more, and stressed banks weather every market gale. From Brussels halls to London's fintech scene, the funding dries, regulations multiply. European banks survive crises unseen, but drown in forms they cannot simplify.
And we wrap up with that. Thank you so much.